How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. If you got any questions about politics, ask away, because that is what we are doing here today. We are answering questions about politics. So if you got any questions about politics, hit me up in the chat. There's no dumb questions. There'll be no roasting. There'll be no debating. I am just here to answer your questions as nicely and accurately as I possibly can. I don't believe in making people feel stupid for not knowing things. And so, when I didn't know anything about politics, I was always worried that I was going to get made fun of for not knowing things. And I remember learning that there was a difference between federal senators and state senators, and federal House members and state House members, and thinking, good Lord, am I stupid? And then, talking to some other people about that. And it turns out lots of people don't know stuff like that. So that is what I'm here for, everybody. I'm here to answer your questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I'm not going to roast you. You shouldn't have to worry. Don't worry if you're worried that your question's going to make you say, oh, I don't want him to think that I'm some woke soy boy, or I'm worried he's going to think that I'm some sort of MAGA extremist. There's going to be no judgments here. You ask whatever question that you like. Now, I do, sometimes I will get a little spicy with the trolls, but if you're here asking your questions in good faith, and you just sincerely want an answer, and you sincerely want to engage, then there'll be no roasting whatsoever. I'm not going to call you dumb. I'm not going to say, boy, are you wrong. Adam's dog says, do you have any background in politics? I don't have a formal background, but I've done a lot of volunteering and activism, and I am a political news junkie. I'm on. I got my finger on the pulse. I know all about all the different business that's going on. All right, we are back. Okay, so yeah, you can ask me anything that you like. KW Jones asks, what has happened to the Republican Party? Well, the Republican Party has been in the process of becoming radicalized for, I don't know, maybe like the last 30-ish years. I remember back in the 90s, they started breaking norms and spreading a lot of narratives about Democrats being, baby-killing, pedophile, Satanists, stuff like that. And, the thing is, with any drug like that, you got to keep on increasing the dose because you get acclimated to it. And so the things that they were saying on Fox News in the 90s were, a lot tamer than the things that they're saying on Fox News today. And you could see a slow progression into madness by checking out different points in history. And I always go back to the 2008 election when John McCain was talking to Republicans at his town halls, and people were asking him, like, what are we going to do about Obama? He's a terrorist. He's a Muslim. He wasn't even born in this country. And John McCain was like, no, he's a perfectly nice fella, but we just disagree on how to run the country. And, I think part of the reason why he lost that election is because that is not what his Republican base wanted to hear. And then, you got your Mitt Romneys who, they toe the party line a little bit better. But, it wasn't until Donald Trump came along, whose brain was pickled exactly the same way as everybody else who watches Fox News, that people were like, hell yeah, he is saying exactly what I want him to be saying, So, yeah, that's what happened there, man. That is what happened there. Carl Clark 653 says, same can be fake or the leftist media, dude. That is not true, Carl. Not even a little bit. It is not even a little bit true, Carl. Find me one example of a mainstream news or quote-unquote liberal news saying things that are equally inflammatory and false. Let's see here. John Kang says, Kamala broke the DNC financially. No, she didn't. That is a conspiracy theory. I have fully looked into that. Gen X66 Elsa says, John McCain was one of the last good Republicans. Yeah, I was very hopeful during the 2008 election because I liked Obama a lot and I liked Clinton. And I liked McCain fine, and I remember talking to my dad about this and being like, yeah, whoever wins, I'm going to be fine. I'm completely fine with this. I would prefer Obama, of course, but I'm fine with any of those three people. And then, things just started getting worse quickly, where we're like, all right, now we got to worry about the future of our democracy. We got to worry about the safety of women. We got to worry about fucking mass deportation camps being set up and shit like that. So yeah, radicalization's a hell of a drug. Let's see here. Yeah, that's everybody's saying that her campaign is in debt. That is false. That has been debunked. Let's see here. Moonlight. Why is mainstream media so biased? I mean, it depends on what you mean by that, Moonlight, because if you're talking about like biased against accuracy, then the mainstream media is a lot more accurate than right-wing media. That's number one. Number two is, if you're wondering, like, the mainstream media doesn't report the things that you feel like they should be reporting on, it's probably because the mainstream media has a profit motive. And so they need to publish stories that are going to get you to click and share on those stories. So they have purposefully tailored their reporting and their headline writing in order to do that. So yeah, I don't know if that's what you mean by that. Peter Todd Rooney says, are you not disappointed in the centrism and lack of substantive policy innovations from the Democrats? I don't agree with that at all, Peter Todd Rooney, because if you look at the policies that the Harris campaign was putting forward, they were all very progressive. If you look at the things that the Biden administration accomplished, they were all very progressive. So the idea that there's this like centrist takeover of the Democratic Party when, you know, maybe they're not as you know, hardcore socialist tanky as an AOC or a Bernie Sanders, but they are certainly progressive. They're certainly you know, advancing good democratic legislation. You know, there's all these talks. This is like one of my big hobby horses. Is just the idea that Democrats they don't get any credit for anything, and Republicans never get any blame for anything. So like we're complaining about Democrats being too centrist when the right of this country has become extreme. You know, it's nonsense. It's like what are we arguing here? You know, it's like you got a guy in a convenience store stabbing people, and the owner of the store is yelling at the kids who are reading magazines. You know, so you know, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but that's my perspective here. You know, and I'm tired of seeing these fucking narratives holding Democrats to this impossibly high standards while Republicans are out there fucking, you know, Matt Gaetz is going to be attorney general. The guy doesn't fucking know what he's doing. You know, I don't trust him as far as I can fucking throw him, you know? So yeah, you can miss me with that nonsense. Wicked Mozart says, what are you talking about? Bernie Sanders and AOC are centrist. I would not say that they're centrist. Let's see here. Text Forever 361. How much more extreme can you get than the Democrats? I don't really know what you're talking about. I don't consider Democrats extreme. I don't consider trying to help working class Americans and trying to protect women extreme. Autumn, yes, two totally different stands for the left and the right. Completely agree. Moonlight, mainstream media is a joke. You still haven't told me what you mean by that. Free R. Kelly, free Diddy says thoughts on mass debating. I'm not. Oh, I know what you're doing. Okay. Hilarious. Farmer Casey says, why doesn't Gaetz know what he's doing? He doesn't have any experience. Like, if you talk to, like, Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr were awful partisan hacks, but at least they had experience. Like, Matt Gaetz did what, like a summer at a law firm or something? The man does not have the necessary requirements to be attorney general, aside from the fact that his motivation is just to do whatever Trump tells him to do. He's just a Trump lackey. Like, uh-oh, my computer is futzing. Am I back? Am I here? What's going on? My computer is in the process of rebooting or something. Am I still on? Can you guys see me? Let's see here. Juice says, you're just trying to discredit Matt Gaetz. No, he does that himself. You call me jealous of Matt Gaetz? No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't have to pay to engage in relations with ladies. Let's see here. 360B0. Right, yeah, I don't need to do that. Thank you very much. Robbie Foster 921. Why do MAGA believe the lies? Because of propaganda. Let's see here. Why did 10 million Biden votes not vote? Because of propaganda. You know, there are all these narratives that I see on social media that are encouraging people on the left to not vote. And I'm extremely suspicious of them. I'm extremely suspicious of their motivations because some of the people that are spreading these narratives are, you know, describing themselves as leftists or liberals or Democrats or whatever, you know? And so, yeah, I don't buy that shit for a fucking second. Anytime somebody says to me, like, both sides are the same, or she hasn't earned my vote, or I don't want to be complicit in a corrupt system, or the lesser of two evils is still evil, like, all of that shit is just intended to depress Democratic turnout. So, you know, if you want to know why 6 million people, fewer people voted this election than the last election. Like maybe that's part of the reason why. Moonlight, you still haven't told me what you're talking about. You said that they're biased as hell, but what do you mean? Eveskin says, propaganda on all sides. They're not the same kind, but everyone does some information spreading. Yes, Eveskin, but that is what we call a false equivalence. Because if, like I said, let's say you got a convenience store and you got two people in the convenience store. One person is stabbing everybody that comes in, and the other person is stealing Kit Kats. Those are not the same level of crime. So it's like, yeah, is there some narrative pushing happening on the left? Sure, but it is not even fucking close to what is going on the right. And I'm worried that people don't understand the scale that we're fucking talking about. We're talking about the difference between an ant and the sun. Like, there is just so much more misinformation and disinformation and propaganda spreading. This country is just being drenched in anti-democrat propaganda. There's no words to describe it. Like, you can't fathom the difference between it, you know? There's the right-wing media sphere, which just is tearing down Democrats left and right. You've got the mainstream media, which tries to be non-biased, and so they have to treat the left and the right as though they're the same, but they're not, because the right is crazy extreme. So the mainstream media goes after Democrats, and, they go after Republicans too, but they go after them equally, which, again, false equivalence. And then you've got, like left-wing media, like the people that are crazy left, who are, like the tankies, and the people in my chat saying that AOC and Bernie are centrists, and those people are going after fucking Democrats also. So it's like Democrats don't get a fucking, there's no place that Democrats can go where they're not being fucking raked over the coals, despite the fact that Republicans are literally doing fucking Nazi shit. I feel like that's the more important thing to be focusing on than, whether or not the 15%, nominal adjustable tax rate that the Democrats are proposing. Like, why are we getting into the details here when fascism bad? Can't we all agree? Fascism bad? Let's see here. Fed, what's going on over Fed on Twitch? How you doing? Try Dentist on YouTube says they do tend to be anti-Dem, though. Who do you mean when you say they? Do tend to be anti-Dem, though. Hazel, what is your label that you identify yourself with? I think progressive is probably the best way to label me, but I don't really dig into the semantics of that. I'm sure that some people would call me a leftist, a liberal, a socialist, a communist. But I like progressive. Let's see here. Leroy says you lost because of the lies that spill out of your mouth. No, I think we lost because of the lies that spill out of Tim Pool's mouth and Tucker Carlson's mouth and Sean Hannity's mouth and every fucking, influencer that was encouraging people either to vote for Republicans or to not vote at all. Let's see here. Phantom Lens says, if you proclaim to be good, any stain changes. I don't know what that means. Anna says, I'm a liberal progressive. We must move forward. I agree with that. Kai says, I saw someone put it well that, both sides are bad, but I don't know, damn. Well, but I know damn well who I'd rather debate. Yeah, completely agree with that. Eveskin, what would the world look like for the sanity to come back? Let's reverse engineer from that. At this point, I'm just really worried about the damage that Trump is going to do with, Project 2025 being the plan, and he's got a trifecta. He's got Congress, he's got the White House, he's got the Supreme Court. It's really scary. And this is not meant to depress any sort of activism that people watching this might be inspired to do. I encourage you guys to do things. I encourage you to organize, and I encourage you to vote, and I encourage you to call your reps and be active participants. But I'm not going to lie and say that it's going to be easy, because it's not. The reason why I've been working my ass off for the last 8 years to stop Trump from winning this election is because I knew it was going to be worse, and the more people that get installed into the government that are extreme right wing, the easier it is for Trump to do all the crazy shit that he wants to do. And he's not going to make the same mistake that he did in 2016 by nominating people to his cabinet and to government positions who aren't just going to be complete and utter loyalist ass kissers who are just going to do whatever the fuck he says no matter what. And when he tells the next chief of staff to shoot protesters in the leg, they're not going to say, no, that's crazy. They're going to say, all right, how many bullets would you like, sir? How many bullets would you like, daddy? All right, globalize my agenda. You're back. Fantastic. Let's see here. Trump says he will probably just ride Biden's good economy and pass some socially conservative legislation. Globalize my agenda. I don't agree with that narrative, and I worry that you are, lulling people into a false sense of security with that, because I would just say listen to the things that he says he's going to do, and then recognize that there's a lot fewer things stopping him from doing those things than in 2016. Louis Fox says, you are part of the problem inciting fear. I don't think I'm inciting fear. I think I'm being realistic. Is it inciting fear to tell people what Trump said he wanted to do? Because I don't think I'm inciting fear then. I think I'm just reporting the news, Let's see here. Bullets Raining Us says, what do you think about Biden letting Ukraine use long-range missiles against Russia? Oh, wow. This guy just hardcore using the N-word. I don't know if you guys want to report big dick diggers for using the N-word on my chat here, but yeah, go ahead and do that. I'm of two minds about it. Like, I don't love war, and I don't love the idea that potentially civilians will be in more harm the further that a projectile goes into enemy territory. I think the better the chance that there will be some civilian casualties. I'm not an expert in military warfare, but that just seems to be the case. And so I worry about that. But at the same time, I also believe in making it so that Ukraine can protect itself, because, I don't believe that what Russia is doing is right. And I think that the better thing to do for global peace is to stop Russia where they are. So yeah, I don't know. And there's also the concern of what Trump is going to do when he gets into office. He's going to shut off, close off all aid to Ukraine, in which case, good luck. I certainly hope the European Union can fill in those gaps, because, they're going to need all the help that they can get. So yeah, I think it is a decision that is brought about from trying to make the best out of a bad scenario. Let's see here. Eveskin, does it close aid to Ukraine and Israel? I'm not sure what you mean by close aid to Ukraine and Israel. Thoughts on RFK? He's a liar and a fraud, and I worry about our health going forward. Bullets Raining Us says, Putin said that he will view this as a declaration of war. I mean, he said that 1,000 times already, so I don't really trust Putin, all his narratives. He's constantly saber-rattling. He's constantly showing us his nuclear weapons and saying, look what I got. You guys should be, I'm going to use this if you do this, and then he never does. Eveskin, will he stop American funding to Ukraine and Israel? He will not stop funding to Israel. Absolutely not. Full stop. He will stop funding to Ukraine, but he will not stop funding to Israel. That is the Trump agenda. That is what he and Republicans want. They want to stop funding Ukraine aid, and not because they don't believe in it. It's because, Daddy Putin told them to. But he's not going to stop funding for Israel, because what they want is the complete annihilation of Palestine. And, they have not been shy about that. Don Jr. was saying, I can't wait for all the Palestinians to be gone so we can build luxury condos on all that great beachfront property. Lindsey Graham said, why don't we just fucking nuke the place? What's that guy's name? Who just got named ambassador to Israel? Mike, what's his name? That guy fucking sucks. I fucking hate that dude. Mike something. Said there is no such thing as Palestine. That's all Israel. So yeah, I don't know if anybody on here was really worried about the people of Palestine. I sure was, and that's the reason why I was encouraging people to vote for Democrats instead. Huckabee, thank you, Mike Huckabee. Yeah, that fucking dude. Let's see here. Okay, let's get to some more of these comments. Scott Meyer says, are you crying still? No, but your mom cried when I banged her last night. Let's see here. James Kirk, I'm sure not worried about any country that is inherently terrorist, says James Kirk. Palestine isn't just Hamas. There's people living there who are not Hamas. and who are not terrorists. They're just really nice people who are trying to live their fucking lives, and there is a war happening around them. So yeah, you can miss me with that shit. Nicole, thoughts on that duty to warn from Stephen Spoonamore? You know, there are always academics who are, you know, raising red flags about election integrity. I don't want to say always, but the same thing happened in 2016. And, you know, I encourage the Harris campaign to do whatever that they think is necessary to rout out any potential, misdeeds by the Republican Party that maybe calls into question their win. But as of now, there's no reason to believe that Donald Trump did not win this election. So, there's a wonderful universe out there where that dude, Stephen Spoonamore, sends that letter out, and the Harris campaign says, we should look into this. And then they start pulling on the thread, and things start unraveling, and soon we discover that there was election interference, and Republicans are complicit, and people are going to jail, and Harris is going to be president, and it turns out there was a blue wave, but, you know, there's no evidence that's going to happen at this point, you know. And so I think we need to gird our loins for the Trump administration and not pin our hopes onto long shot Hail Marys of that nature. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Let's see here. Rich Savar says, there are people here in the USA just waiting for the right time to attack within. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Rich. Let's see here. Jack James 5656 says, have you ever been to Palestine? I have not. James Kirk, no, the blue wave stayed in the cemetery this time. Again, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you AI, James Kirk? Because the things you're saying are not making any sense. Darren, what do you think Biden should do now till January 19th to protect democracy, like states are doing? Honestly, I think the best thing that he can do is just start to sit judges, and I think that's up to the Democrats in the Senate to make that a priority, because the more empty seats that are available for Donald Trump to put a fucking right-wing psychopath in, he will 100% take advantage of that. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert in, you know, the various mechanisms by which we stop authoritarianism, but I just hope and pray that there are smart people on the Biden team who are looking at all the various ways that Donald Trump can weaponize the government and just try to stop him, you know. Let's see here. Okay. Got it. James Kirk is spreading the false conspiracy theory about dead voters voting. That is complete and utter nonsense, James Kirk. That is complete and utter bullshit. Wow. What a wrong thing to say, James Kirk. Democrats are notoriously famous for dead people voting in elections. Where's the evidence? Where is the evidence? Where is it? And also, why didn't we do it this year? Did we decide to take the year off of having dead people voting in elections? Were we like, you know, I know we usually do this. I know this is the only way that we can win elections, but I don't think we should have any dead people voting in the election this year. You know, fucking miss me with that shit, my man. All right, we were blowing up over on Twitch. What's going on here? Is democracy overrated? Asks Schrodinger's cat. I'm assuming that's what it references to. It's the best system that we've been able to come up with so far. It's certainly better than dictatorships and, you know, aristocracies. There's different flavors of democracy. What we do here in America is different from what they do in Canada, from what they do in France, from what they do in Germany, etc. And so we can argue about what is the best type of representative government that is operated by and for the people. But I don't know of I don't think that attacking the idea of a government of, by, and for the people is the move, you know. And I'm also I get turned off by these intellectual exercises, you know, these kind of like Jordan Peterson style. Like, I know that we're all happy that women can vote, but like, let's discuss on a theoretical level whether or not they should vote, you know, shit like that. I'm just like, I don't know, like, why are we wasting our brain space with this, you know? We all know that genocide is bad, but let's just, like, hypothetically, you know, like, no, let's just focus. Why don't we focus on the problems that actually exist, you know? Let's see here. Do you really think people were less degenerate during monarchies? I'm not engaging with that. You guys over on Twitch can argue whether or not aristocracies are better than democracies. Let's see here. Richard Scarborough 56 said, "How do get Trump out of town?" I mean, the best way would have been to vote for Harris to win. But now, who the fuck knows? You know, good question. Darren, it is but needs revision like Electoral College, SCOTUS, term limits, Citizens United. Completely agree with you, Darren. Let's get you some fucking... Let's vote for this guy, Darren. Man, when are you running for office, my man? Because that is my policy platform to a T. Eveskin says, what is Vance up to? I mean, at the moment, he is just going to be doing whatever Trump tells him to do, and potentially trying to lay the groundwork for taking over the party when Donald Trump kicks it. Marie Antoinette says, aristocracies can be undone. Just ask the French. Did you change your name just for this conversation, Marie Antoinette? Because that is an incredible coincidence. That somebody on Twitch just happened to bring this up, and you was sitting there with your screen name being what it is. You know, good Lord, that's very funny. Eveskin, what do you think of Trump versus Vance? I mean, Trump has the party. You know, like he has the base. Vance, you know, he's more extreme and he's smarter than Trump, but he doesn't have what Trump had. He doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have the history. You know, there's this idea that people have of Trump being the successful businessman, this reality television star, and that reality TV show was edited in a way to make him look like a genius. Nobody else in the Republican Party has that, you know? Like, nobody... There's no, you know... there's no charisma on the Republican side of things. It's the reason why Donald Trump was able to fucking run ramshod through the primary in 2016 and 2024, you know? So, yeah. I don't... You know, I worry about people like Vance and DeSantis, but I don't really think that they have the ability to take over Trump's base, especially not while he's still kicking, you know? Let's see here. Berenstein, so biggest cheese starts off by saying my last name, which is already a red flag, because that's usually what people do when they're trying to point out the fact that I'm Jewish to discredit me, but go off, King. Berenstein, do you think Kamala was more qualified to be president? 100%, without a doubt. Zero, final answer. And absolutely. Harris was more qualified to be president on 1,000 different metrics, without question. Ramshod. Wes Manthu says, what's Ramshod? Schumer, Pelosi, Harris are so charismatic. I mean, I find Schumer and Harris to be very charismatic. Pelosi I love just because she reminds me of my mom. They have very similar, you know, ways of speaking, you know, and they're around the same age. So yeah, you can miss me with that shit. We're just judging politicians based on how charismatic they are. I judge them based on their policies and the kind of work that they accomplish when they're in office. So yeah, you can miss me with that shit also. Let's see here. I sent you a DM. Do you think you could respond when you get a chance? Xavier Lee. I usually respond to all of my DMs. I don't know when you sent it, but I will keep an eye out for that. Enforcer 408 said, talked about how the Dems tossed Tulsi, Sanders, and RFK under the bus. Well, first of all, your spelling needs work, Enforcer 408. But Tulsi Gabbard is a fraud and an agent of the Russian government. RFK is a fraud and a liar. And Bernie Sanders, I like a lot. I do not believe that Democrats tossed Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. under the bus. I think they did that themselves. And if you're talking about Sanders, like, you know, yeah, the DNC is a little more centrist than I want them to be, and yes, they did put their finger on the scale for the more centrist candidates in 2016 and 2020, but that's also kind of where the party was. You know, like, I'm not convinced that Bernie would have won the 2016 primary without the DNC helping Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton fucking ran away with that primary. She got so many more votes than him. And I do not believe that had anything to do with you know, what the DNC did. Like, maybe on the margins, maybe like 1%, but goddamn, she crushed him. And I was a Bernie guy. You know, I campaigned for Bernie. I canvassed for Bernie. Let's see here. Unfiltered Sunset says, what do you think about Candace Owens 2028? I mean, any Republican 2028 is going to be a fucking nightmare. You know, she's a partisan hack. She's a political hack. She's got no substance. Aaron Kitts 14, do you think Democrats will learn anything from their failure this time? Well, Aaron Kitts, you have stumbled upon one of my hobby horses here, which is what did the Democrats do that was so fucking wrong? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they made mistakes. Biden should not have run a second time. Mistake, definitely. But when he did a really bad job in the debate, the party put a lot of pressure on him to step aside, and we replaced him with Kamala Harris, who was younger than he was, which was the main complaint that everybody had about Harris. He's too old. That we had about Biden, that he was too old. So then the Harris campaign has 100 days to mount their presidential campaign, which is unheard of. And I think they did an admirable job. They made a lot of really good calls. And yeah, they made some mistakes. But again, 100 days when, presidential campaigns usually take more than a year to plan and perform. I don't understand why we judge Democrats by such a fucking harsh standard when, yeah, they made mistakes, sure. But the Republican Party, let's look at the fucking campaign that Trump ran. Where he had fucking, Nazi youth rally at MSG with a fucking Tony Hinchcliffe saying that Puerto Rico is a fucking pile of garbage. I feel like that mistake is bigger than any mistake that the Harris campaign made, You got all the people that worked for Donald Trump. Maybe not all. Maybe I don't know the exact breakdown, but dozens of people that worked with Donald Trump in his businesses and in government all said he is unfit for office. He is a crazy person. He is a fascist. He admires Hitler. He wants total control. He doesn't give a shit about any of you. I feel like that's a bigger deal than any mistake that the Democratic Party made. So why? Why are we harping on... Why do the Democrats need to do soul searching when the Republican Party is out there acting like a fucking, circus clowns full of meth, but we're focused on she spent 80 days in Pennsylvania and only 20 days in Wisconsin, and she really should have flipped that. I think she would have made fucking miss me with that shit. I'm done, man. I'm done with all these false fucking narratives about how feckless and ineffective the Democratic Party is when they are not playing on a level playing field. The system is so rigged in favor of Republicans and Republican politicians, why am I going to sit here and fucking hand-wring about the minutia that I think the Democratic Party could have done better in the past? They should have been more pro-worker. Really? Because Elon Musk was on stage with Trump talking about how he proudly union busts and doesn't pay overtime. Really? Is that what the unions want? Is that what workers want? Is an employer who's going to admit that on stage? Is that better for workers? Joe Biden was on the picket line with the auto workers union. He fought to get the rail workers union the sick days that they wanted to strike for. He did that. But somehow the Democratic Party has lost their way with the working class. Fucking miss me with that shit, Unbelievable. UAE Montreal PLSB says, what's your ideology? I'm not really sure what you mean by ideology. I believe in taking care of poor people, healing the sick, all that Jesus shit that Republicans are supposed to be about. Montezumatu says he didn't fight for that shit. He literally did, though. Go Google it. Go Google it. Because nobody was talking about it. Because, again, there's a mainstream media bias against Democrats accomplishing shit. So, yeah. Yeah, the rail workers union, they wanted to strike to get paid sick days. The Democrats tried to pass a bill saying that they should get their sick days. Republicans filibustered it. So then the government stopped the protest, but then Biden went behind the scenes and started negotiating on behalf of the rail workers union and got them their sick days. So, that is a fucking success story of unprecedented, an unprecedented success story. Let's see here. Joseph, you think Democrats did nothing wrong is what's going to make Republicans win again. Yeah, I didn't say that they did nothing wrong. I just said that the mistakes that the Republicans made should matter more. I don't know why they don't, but they should matter more. All right, Aaron. All right, we got a propagandist in here, everybody. Aaron Kitts. He's spreading the anti-democratic propaganda. What's going on, Aaron? How's it going? Thank you for being here and spreading the anti-left-wing propaganda. It's so fun to have you here. So let's take a look at what Aaron said, everybody. Democrats supporting Israel's G-side and abandoned the working class. Okay, so I already talked about how the Democrats did not abandon the working class. I just did 5 minutes on that. But let's talk about the G side. Okay, let's talk about that. So yeah, the Biden administration, they continued sending money and weapons to Israel despite the fact that the Netanyahu government of Israel was doing war crimes against the people of Palestine. I was on the phone with my representatives every week telling them to put more pressure on the Biden administration to stop doing that. The Biden administration put pressure on the Netanyahu government to stop doing war crimes and to let in more aid. Was it enough pressure? I don't think so. Could it have been more? I think so. But yeah, I think that it is a big black mark on the Biden administration. But let's take a look at what the Trump administration is gonna do regarding the people of Palestine. Mike Huckabee said Palestine doesn't exist. That's just all Israel. Lindsey Graham said, why don't we just nuke it? Don Jr. said, I can't wait until all the Palestinians are gone. We can build luxury condos and all that great beachfront property. Donald Trump said, finish the job however you want to Netanyahu. And so now what are we looking at? What are we looking down the barrel of? We had some pressure on Netanyahu to stop doing war crimes. We had some pressure. And the Harris administration said that they were going to put more pressure on Netanyahu than the Biden administration did. But now that pressure is gone. Trump is telling Netanyahu, do whatever the fuck you want. Kill as many fucking Palestinians as you think I give a shit what you do to those people, is what Donald Trump is saying to them. So which is better? Which is better, Aaron? Aaron Kitts, which is better? Which is better? All right, you are spamming the comments and you are out of here. I find it very interesting that they will bring that shit up, and then when I say, well, is better better or is worse better? You know, then they just start spamming the comments with whataboutism, whataboutism. Whataboutism is if I say, you know, Biden and the Democrats were sending money to Israel, and then someone says, well, what about Republicans sending money to IBM? That's whataboutism. It's not whataboutism if it's literally the exact same issue. You know, that person stabbed me 5 times. That person stabbed me 6 times. That's not whataboutism. You know, let's see here. Booglicker says, is Kamala a Marxist? Why are we talking about this when she didn't win? Are we're still dragging Harris through the mud for a class that her dad taught in college, you know? Harry Randy says Harris cooed Biden. No, she didn't. Trump, something, these greedy companies, more tax cuts and minimum wage. No, ma'am. I think I'm missing the key word here, Chica Chula. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Sammy Two Socks, do you feel the Doge will drastically affect the federal budget? I mean, you know, if you cut the kind of government programs that the Doge Commission is threatening to, then yeah. But I think that's also going to hurt GDP and productivity and also people. You know, like I think the main point in the Department of Democratic Efficiency is that it's going to hurt a lot of people. You know, and I think that the fact that it's going to hurt markets and the fact that it is going to hurt the economy, I think those are also important things to bring up. But I think the main point is they're going to cut a lot of services that are going to hurt a lot of people. Booglicker says, why do people believe white privilege exists? Because it does. I will refer you to the felon-in-chief that just got elected president for the second fucking time. Bob, they would have covered his mental break. Oh, boy. All right. Do you think AOC and Michelle Obama, vice president, would make a good candidate in 2028? I mean, I think that would be great, but Michelle Obama has said many, many, many times that she has zero interest in politics, you know. So I doubt that she would ever get involved. And, you know, I really like the work that AOC is doing as a representative. You know, maybe one day senator before she tries to go for president, but you know, I think she's great, and I encourage whatever it is that she wants to try to get done in the government. Let's see here. M says, "Can I join? I have a lot of questions." You can just put them in the chat. You know. Let's see here. What's your best argument for white privilege's existence? Well, you know, if a white person lives their entire life, they will not be harassed by the cops a fraction of the times that a person of color will be harassed by the cops. You got two people, one black, one white, and they both live equally legally. The black person will get harassed by the cops a lot more, potentially infinitely more than the white person. The white person could go their entire life without getting harassed by the cops. That's just one example. But it is so thoroughly enmeshed in our society that it is difficult to recognize it when it is there. It's a little bit like that old joke, like two fish are in the ocean together. One of them swims up to the other one and says, "How's the water today?" And the other guy goes, "What the hell is water?" Like sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees. You know what I mean? Brent All424 says, "I'm black, never been harassed." Cool. Well, number one, we don't know that you're black. You are a person on the internet. You can be whatever the fuck you say you are. Number two, even if you are black and we don't know if that's true that you've never been harassed. Number three, even if you are black and you haven't been harassed, that is what we call anecdotal evidence. Just because it happened to you or someone that you know does not mean that that is the statistical standard. I am Jewish, and for most of my life, I didn't experience any anti-Semitism. But that's because I was growing up in Los Angeles, California, where there were a lot of other Jewish people. Then I went to college in Ohio, and I saw some anti-Semitism for the first time, and I was like, oh shit, look at this. How about that? Let's see here. M says, "My question was, people say I can't trust the facts the media give me because they are biased against Trump." M, I disagree with that. I disagree that it is biased against Trump. This is a big issue with our media environment these days. The idea of where do you get your information and what can you tell to be true? There are a lot of very valid complaints that you can make against legacy media and mainstream media. But it has been my experience that right-wing media and independent media are more flawed, and they have the greater potential for misinformation and inaccuracies than you will see with the legacy media and mainstream media. Because part of the value proposition of legacy media and mainstream media is journalistic integrity and factual reporting. But that doesn't exist in right-wing media. That doesn't exist in independent media, because all that they need is clicks. And they have their audience that doesn't give a shit about whether or not things are true or not. Now, if you want me to get into more specifics, I will. But I would encourage you to have a varied media diet in order to make sure that the things that you are seeing are not just misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, shit like that. If you ever read something and you're like, this seems too weird to be true, or shitty to be true, or too good to be true, give it a search. Try to see if the New York Times or CNN or the Associated Press or the Guardian UK or anything else that is not just MSNBC or Fox News has to say about it. Let's see here. Chikachula says, "Trump is not going to do absolutely anything about our climate emergency and our gun epidemic." That is 100% true, Chikachula, and that is another reason why I was working my ass off trying to elect Democrats this cycle. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? This is America. Don't catch you slipping up. All right. Volsi Destine says, "How do you feel about Matt Gaetz?" Matt Gaetz is an unbelievable piece of shit. I've known this for a very long time. Even before I found out that he had illegal, relations with an underage woman. Even before I found out that the media has been calling him a sex pest. Which, I gotta be honest, all this reporting about the sex parties that Matt Gaetz has been involved in, and the drugs and the underage women, I get it, but that's not the main concern with Matt Gaetz. The main concern is that he doesn't give a shit about the law. He's only going to do what Trump tells him to do. The concern is that he doesn't have the relevant experience to be the attorney general. He is a sexual predator, 100%. But people look at that story and they're like, ugh, what? Who gives a shit? This is just sensational. It's not going to motivate people the way that I think the mainstream media thinks it's going to motivate people. I think we need to be focusing on the things that are wrong with our politicians when we are confronting them. Let's see here. Ray Hitomi 659 says, "But how can we get rid of woke?" I don't know that we do need to get rid of woke. Boog Liquor says, "Do you like the right to bear arms?" I don't personally, but I understand that I am in the minority of the country. Even progressives like myself are more pro Second Amendment than I am. Alex Tries TikTok says, "Why are Dems protesting wars and backing the party that is funding it?" Well, Alex, both parties fund wars, so it is the height of myopic anti-left-wing propaganda to say that the left is the only party that is funding wars. That's number one. Number two is that the right wing of this country has been historically more warmongery than the left has been. But the left often gets derided as being squishy and, not giving a shit about national security and, letting other countries walk all over them. And so the Democrats responded to that by becoming more aggressive in global affairs. And, you could say whether or not that was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but the fact of the matter is Democrats get judged by a much harsher standard than Republicans do. Republicans had full control of the government in 2001 when 9/11 happened. But do we call Republicans the party that is bad on national security because they let 9/11 happen? Nope. If Democrats let 9/11 happen, then we would literally never fucking hear the end of it. So, I have a little bit of sympathy for Democrats in that regard. Now, where funding for Israel is concerned specifically, I am firmly against it, and I think that it is unjustifiable. But, funding Ukraine so that they can stop the illegal occupation of their country by Russia, I think that is a moralistically the right thing to do, and strategically for global peace it is the right thing to do as well. Alex Tries TikTok says, "Democrats let Pearl Harbor happen." With that logic, sure, Alex Tries. Let's judge the Democratic Party by things that happened before 1950. Let's do that. Unbelievable. Before the parties switched, let's do that. Why can't we focus on the wrong things that Republicans are doing right now? This century. Why can't we fucking talk about that? Unfucking believable. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I bring up 9/11, somebody brings up Pearl Harbor. Unfucking believable. I bring up stop and frisk. Someone goes, "Well, Lincoln was a Republican and he freed the slaves." So yeah, that's whataboutism for that fucking dude that I blocked earlier about whataboutism. Oh, unfucking believable, man. So ridiculous indeed. All right, where are we at? All right. Okay. Volcy Destine says, "Do you think Matt Gaetz will get submitted?" I do, because Trump really wants to flex his muscles and see what he can get away with. And so he is going to... There was all this talk during the Supreme Court hearings for Brett Kavanaugh that he was going to get removed because of all the sexual, graping scandals that he was involved in. And even McConnell, right before he voted for him, said that he didn't think that Republicans had the votes. I think that there's a false hope thing that gets pushed on the right to further deflate the left whenever we lose all these little battles. That they're going to make us think that Matt Gaetz can't possibly get confirmed. And so we can hope that he won't get confirmed, and we can put pressure on our Republican senators and House members to remove Matt Gaetz from consideration, but Donald Trump wants to see what he can get away with. He's like a fucking child. He is like a 3-year-old child who is going to bend every conceivable fucking rule to see what he can get away with. It's the reason why he's trying to get recess appointments when he has control of the Senate. What the fuck, dude? You already have control of the party. You already have control of the Senate. What do you need recess appointments for? Is it because your picks are going to be so fucking insane that even your fellow Republicans aren't going to vote for them? That's what I'm talking about, guys. He's going to try to grab anything that he can get. And it's the reason why I tried to stop this from happening, y'all. It is part of the reason why I tried to stop this from happening. Zevian Lee says, "What are the chances you think gets confirmed?" I don't really do predictions, Zevian. Sorry. Lisa, are you Republican? Absolutely not. Chikachula says he was going to be a dictator if not for his dementia. Dementia has never stopped dictators in the past. I did too. Tried too hard. No, we did not, Brandy. No, we did not. We tried exactly as hard as we should have, which was as hard as we could have. Let's see here. Ryan says, do you think Harris will run in 2028? That's a really good question. I don't know. But again, I don't do predictions. You know, it's fun to speculate, but yeah, I don't know. I think that if I was a woman, and particularly a woman of color, I would be extremely worried about how misogynistic and racist this country is. That it would vote for Donald Trump over me. You know. Sarah Baker says, I don't think the DNC will back Harris again. You know, but I mean, it's really up to the voters. You know, they're assuming that we don't fall into fucking dictator shit as quickly as some think we might. There's going to be a primary for the Democratic candidate, and so we'll see who America decides they want to run. Mark McKindy says Elon will switch by 2028. I don't think so. I also don't think that he would win the primary, you know. Lisa, as long as you are not Republican, why the president should act as you want? Excellent question, Lisa, because I'm an American citizen and the president works for fucking me. You know, this idea that the president is only going to do what the people in his party wants, it's un-American. And it is unpatriotic. The president is supposed to be president for the entire country, regardless of whether or not people voted for him. That is every politician. Every politician is responsible for their constituents, the citizens of their country. For House representatives, it's the people that live in their district. For senators and governors, it's the people that live in their state. And for the president, it's every fucking person in the country. All right, let's get back into these comments. Mark McCanday, I mean, he'll clash with Trump and switch allegiances. Maybe. I don't know. They have a symbiotic business relationship where Elon Musk has control of the social media platform Twitter, and is able to use his money and influence to spread a lot of propaganda and help elect Republicans. And Donald Trump has control of the government, which is going to give Elon Musk a bunch of corrupt, government contracts. And he's going to be able to steal a shit ton of money from taxpayers thanks to his relationship with Trump. So yeah, even if they don't like each other, even if Trump spits in Elon's face and says, call me daddy, Elon is still going to be on the Trump train because he knows that that's where his bread is buttered, you know, and, vice versa. You know, Trump likes having Elon Musk in his corner. RR123455 says, who do you think will be the Republican nominee in 2028? If Trump is alive, it's going to be Trump. If Trump's not alive, I think Vance is going to go for it. I think, DeSantis is going to go for it. I think Haley's going to go for it. And I think, one of the Trump kids, probably Don Jr., probably Ivanka. And if anybody's going to carry on the mantle after Trump passes away, I think it's going to be one of the kids. Because the name is what people like. It's part of what people like, you know? And so they're going to think that this is the closest thing that I can get to when I got to vote for Trump. And so they will vote for them. That's my guess. That's my prediction. Let's see here. When Twitter censored Hunter Biden's crimes, it was fine for you. Weird. When did I say that? Lisa, do you have any evidence of me saying that? Do you have anywhere that I wrote that down? Lisa? It seems like you're spreading right-wing propaganda narratives. And so, see you later. See you later, troll. Okay. Liberty Iris says, I hate Trump supporters so much. You know, I understand that impulse, Liberty, but and I understand that we are not in a position right now to feel magnanimous and to feel forgiving. But I believe in practicing radical empathy, and I think that there are a lot of people in this country who have been tricked into voting for Trump, who are part of the right-wing media sphere and have not known any other community or culture as part of their identity. It's very difficult to break out of those kinds of bubbles. And so I think radical empathy is good, even if you can't do it yet. It's important to have it here, even if you don't have it here yet. M says, was Trump better than Obama and Biden for the economy? No. Hard no. Big no. Big ass no. Unbelievable no. Okay, let's take a look at the let's take a look at the scorecard, M. All right. Obama took over from George W. Bush in 2008. We were suffering from a historic market crash. We call it the Great Recession. Obama ushered in an economic recovery that was unrivaled. 8 years of Obama, the market was extremely strong. Unemployment was extremely low. Inflation was low. All the metrics were great. Trump took over, and, he was riding that momentum from the Obama administration. Now, it takes a while for the things that presidents do to have an effect. So we can't look at the first year or the second year of the Trump presidency and see what his policies were and how they affected it. What you should do is look at the last day of the Trump presidency and see what effect having this guy in office accomplished. And what are the effects? Crime, record high. Violence, record high. Unemployment, record high. Inflation, on the way up. Market, crashed. Hate crimes, record high. All of us trapped in our houses because a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic was allowed to ravage through the country and kill 1 million people. All of that is on Donald Trump and Republicans' shoulders. And there's a trailing effect to that even. Like, let's take a look at some of the things that Trump did that caused the inflation during the Biden administration that reached up to 9%. First of all, there was tariffs on other countries. That increased inflation because it decreased supply and it increased the cost of goods coming into America. And it also increased prices, rent prices, housing prices, because we were tariffing lumber coming in from Canada. We literally didn't have enough wood to build houses. And so, houses became more expensive. Also, because of COVID, interest rates went down to zero, which meant that hedge funds could borrow money for free. And they did, and they bought houses. They bought lots and lots and lots of houses because they wanted to rent them to us. That decreased supply, and it increased the number of renters that there were, which increased rental prices in addition to increasing housing prices. He also made a deal with the oil-producing nations to decrease oil supply during COVID, and that deal lasted for 2 years, which is part of the reason why oil prices were so expensive during the beginning of the Biden administration. In addition to that, there were the supply chains that got fucked up during COVID. That was all Donald Trump's fault. And that is another part of the reason why inflation started going up. In addition to that, there was the greedflation, which was companies just increasing prices for no reason other than they wanted to pad their profits. And while I can't put that on Trump's shoulders specifically, the cause of that is Republican policies. It is the Republican ethos of free market capitalism, letting monopolies happen. That is part of the Republican platform, is we don't want to regulate these companies out of existence. We don't want to burden companies with regulations. And so if companies want to buy other companies and monopolize, that's totally fine. And that's the reason why we have like 5 companies right now, that own fucking everything. And that is the reason why greedflation is allowed to happen, because in a true capitalist utopia, there would be so much competition in the market that if one company decided, I'm going to raise prices despite the fact that inflation is only at 3% right now, I'm going to raise prices 50%, and that's going to, increase my bottom line, there would be other companies that would be like, okay, well, we're going to sell our thing for cheaper, and then more people will come buy our shit. But the fact of the matter is, there's only like 5 companies right now that own fucking everything, and so there was no actual competition for that. So yeah, the Biden economy strengthened the middle class. It got inflation down from 9% to 2.3%. So thank you very much, Biden, for that. It was in the process of trying to dig us out of a cost of living crisis, and we could have done more. But there were a lot of fires that needed to be put out by the Trump administration. So yeah, I will take a Democrat economy over a Republican economy every fucking day of the week, my man. The other Jen asks, on what grounds can Trump call a national emergency to use the military to deport people? Okay, Jen, so I'm only 60% sure that this is true, so double check this. But I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think that there is no oversight on a president declaring a national emergency. I think. Everybody should just double check that because, again, I'm not on here spreading misinformation. I vaguely recall hearing that. So, yes, I do not know. I do not know if there's anything that can stop him from doing that. Let's see here. This guy says, quit crying, you lost. That's a block. Fantastic. All right. Julie Just Breathe says, tricked or willfully ignored. At which point is it intentional? Are you talking about Republican voters, Julie? Because I'm with you on that. You know, like if that is what you're saying, then I am similarly upset by that. But I still think that we need to if we can't do radical empathy, at least aim towards radical empathy, you know, because even if there is a person out there that is willfully ignoring the truth because they want to vote for Trump, I still think there's a part of them that is being conned, that is being tricked. But yeah, you know, I'm not here. You know, have definitely gotten mad at people in red hats, you know, and sent angry emails to family members of mine who I am still no longer talking to. So yeah, I think your rage is justified, but you know, I think we need to move away from that because I think that when we fight, the rich assholes win. You know, it is only through organizing and working together that we get out of this thing. You know. M says, can we think that Trump is a good candidate and has more experience because he was president? I mean, that is there's definitely an argument for that. M, but I would say look at the things that he did when he was president and see. You know, he spent a lot of time at his clubs, not at the White House. So, you know, there's an argument to be made that he took I think he actually did take more vacation time than any president in history. So there's that. Number two is when he was at his fucking golf courses, taking all of his fucking many vacations, he had Secret Service staying at his hotels. And he was charging Secret Service 3 times the normal rate. So the taxpayers were paying 3 times the normal rate for Secret Service to stay at Mar-a-Lago because Donald Trump knew that money was going directly into his pocket. So yeah, corruption, incompetence, you know, factionalism. You know, he was telling people beat the shit out of reporters, beat the shit out of protesters. If you're in a blue state, why should I fucking help you? You know, these crazy fucking Democrats, all these crazy fucking these people. You know. Encouraging his supporters to do violence, you know, January 6th, making deals with authoritarian governments like Russia, you know, letting the government of Saudi Arabia murder an American journalist. You know, I could go on and on. He stole children from their parents and then lost their parents in other countries, and now there are thousands of children who were orphaned because of the Trump administration. Trump installed 3 Supreme Court justices who took away a woman's right to choose, and now 4 women are dead because of that. 4 women have died unnecessarily of pregnancy complications. One of those women was a mother, and so now that child is an orphan as well because of Donald Trump. So yeah, you know, if you get the job and then you're fired after 4 years because you're so fucking bad at it, I don't know if that counts as experience. You know, thank you for your questions, Em. Though I really appreciate you being here. Volsi Destine, do you think Thomas or Alito will step down during his term? I think they both will. I think they both know that in a not crazy administration that they would be the subject of corruption investigations, and so they want to get out while the getting's fucking good. You know, they already got their payout, they already got their fucking money bag, they already, you know, made sure to change the laws to help Republicans going forward for decades. So yeah, they've done everything they fucking need to do. They just want to enjoy their fucking retirement and know that they got away with it. So yeah, they're out. And Trump is going to put people who are younger and more extreme in their place. So congratulations again to everybody who fucking voted for him. M, why do you think people voted for him the first time? He didn't have a lot of experience in politics. You know, people have written entire books about that, M. You know, let's see here. So here are the main reasons why I think Trump got elected in 2016. Number one, he was different, and the American public was really interested in the fact that he was so different, and so his brain was pickled in the exact same way that everybody else who watches Fox News, their brain gets pickled, and so he was literally speaking their language. So he inspired a level of devotion that other Republicans like Mitt Romney and John McCain didn't, because they weren't speaking the same language as those other Fox News viewers who had, their brains are just like completely fucking spoiled with conspiracy theories and shit like that. So he wins the nomination, and he, for the first time ever, a politician had no shame. And so we were showing people things like he doesn't pay his employees, and he is a sexual harasser, and he's been credibly accused of rape multiple times. And one of the women who accused him of rape was 13 years old at the time. And he's flown around with Jeffrey Epstein in his plane, and, all this shit. And he was just going out there and saying, like, all of this stuff is lies. It's all bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Whereas before, every politician would just go out there and be like, these allegations aren't true, and being very professional and stuff like that. He didn't speak like a politician, which I think people just like, they get inherently turned off by people that speak like politicians. There was also an unprecedented amount of negative information out there around Hillary Clinton. Like, Hillary Clinton had been demonized by the right since the 90s, when she became first lady in 92. And so we had decades of right-wing media making shit up about the Clintons. The Clintons are not, I don't know if they're great people necessarily. Like, I think they've definitely done wrong things, especially Bill. But the fact of the matter is that Republicans made up a lot of shit about the Clintons that was not true. And they just hammered that for decades. And then Russia came in and started flooding our social media with nonsense. Just fucking anti-Hillary Clinton lies, misinformation, disinformation. And they were pumping up Donald Trump so hard that people felt this like bandwagon effect of like, I want to be part of that party. That seems like a lot of fun, the Donald Trump party, And I also just think that we weren't prepared. Like, everybody was looking at the polls and expecting Hillary Clinton to run away with it. And so people were not doing the smart things. They were not organizing and, knocking on doors and making phone calls. And, I was campaigning for Bernie, but when he lost the primary, I was like upset about that. And so I would look at the polls and I would see that Hillary Clinton is running away with it. And then I would go, all right, well, I'm not going to donate. I'm not going to volunteer. I'm not going to do anything because I'm annoyed that Bernie didn't win. And she's obviously going to win still. Like, obviously I want Clinton over Trump. I'm still going to vote for her. But I don't want to do I don't want to do any volunteering or anything or donating. If she's going to win, she's going to win. That's fine, And then she lost. And I think that if we knew she was going to lose, then maybe some of us would have gone to fucking Wisconsin, and done and put in some fucking volunteer shifts and shit like that, And, there's also the fact that he was a reality TV star, and that show was edited in a way to make it seem like he was a genius and a brilliant business strategist and the kind of guy that's always right and can see, read between the lines and shit like that. When the reality is that the guy has gone bankrupt more times than not. He bankrupted a casino, which is like, how the fuck do you even do that? Casinos print money. Like, that's their whole fucking thing, So, yeah, it's, there's also the effect of the fact that there's so many scandals and so many things wrong with Trump that just trying to explain them to people, they just kind of like all blend together, and it's really hard to like focus on one specific thing. He also had Kellyanne Conway running his campaign, and she's like the world's most expert gaslighter. She was going on all these fucking news programs just lying and making shit up and just talking a million miles an hour with fucking bullshit nonsense narratives. I wrote a whole book about it. So yeah, there's just a couple of reasons, but I'm sure there are more. I'm sure there are more. Thank you very much for the question, Em. You got the best questions today, Em. Thank you very much. Studio Shelby says, a book. I did write a book. I wrote a book called Kellyanne Conway Technique about how full of shit Kellyanne Conway is. M, do you know any economists that actually think he did a good job when it came to the economy? I'm sure that there are, but legitimate economists, Nobel Prize-winning economists, the majority of economists all believe that he did not do a good job when it came to the economy. M says, can people join your live or not? No, they cannot. Matt Vids, how did he win this time? I have a couple of theories about that, Matt Vids. First of all, there was an incumbency bias felt around the globe. For the first time since World War II, every person who was running an incumbent campaign, meaning they were in power already and now they're trying to get in power again, or in every country that had elections this year, in every industrialized country that had elections this year, whether they were right-leaning or left-leaning or center, every single one of them lost their election this year. And I think that is due to the inflation that was caused by the COVID pandemic. And people were still very upset about that, and they wanted to blame the party in charge, whether or not they were the ones that actually let COVID fuck things up the way that COVID fucked things up. So that's number one. Number two is there were a lot of narratives that I saw being pushed on social media, and social media is where the majority of undecided voters get their news. Like if you poll people that read legacy media, like the New York Times, or they watch the mainstream media, those people swung for Harris and Democrats 80%. But it's only people that get their news on social media that were the undecided voters or the right-leaning voters. And obviously there's like the Republican media, like those people are obviously gonna vote right, gonna vote Trump. Now, in addition to all of these like right-wing propaganda narratives being spread on social media, there were also these more insidious narratives that were not pro-Republican but just anti-Democrat. And I started seeing them so much that I actually wrote a list of them because I was like, I don't feel like this is a coincidence, you know? So these are all the things that I heard on social media that well, you know, some of them may have been true, some of them are not true, but they all had the effect of depressing Democratic turnout, okay? Both sides are the same. She hasn't earned my vote. I don't want to be complicit in a corrupt system. The lesser of two evils is still evil. Voting doesn't do anything. I'm not voting because that is a vote against the two-party system. Democrats could have saved abortion, they just didn't want to. Why didn't Dems do something about blank while they were in charge? Why didn't she fix it already? Like, all of those are, you know, unfair, irrational narratives that only serve to depress Democratic turnout, you know? And depending on how far down the rabbit hole you are, it's a good, you know, it's a good gateway drug to Republican propaganda. If, like, you see that shit and you're just like, all right, well, you know, what do the Republicans have to say? And then you hear all the fucking bullshit lies about how great they are, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I believe that the reason why 5 million fewer people voted in this election than the last election is because of narratives like that. And people who are claiming to be leftists or progressives or Democrats or centrists or moderates or whatever, just not saying, I'm not a Republican, but I don't like that the Democrats did this, or she didn't earn my vote, or, you know, the Democrats could have saved abortion, but they didn't. They chose not to. The two-party system. I saw this fucking guy on this fucking app who did like a 10-minute video about how Democrats lose on purpose. And I was like, I started writing this like creed against that video. My wife told me I wasn't allowed to put it on, put it on the internet. She told me I'm not allowed to start flame wars with other progressives on the internet. But I was just like, what the fuck, man? This is a guy who proclaims to be a progressive, telling people not to vote for Democrats because they lose elections on purpose. And that video was full of that same shit. Like, they could have codified Roe. They could have saved abortion. They had so many opportunities. They could have. It would have been so easy. And I'm watching that video like, that is bullshit, man. That is a fucking lie. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? So, yeah, I think it's shit like that. I think it is insidious propaganda that is, you know, some of it is paid for by Republican operatives, including adversarial nations like the Russian government. And some of it is just willful idiots. Some of it is people looking at those narratives and buying them, you know, these fucking suckers, these fucking marks who believe the lies, and then they start spreading it themselves because they're like, oh, I agree with this. I'm going to put my voice out there supporting these fucking nonsense narratives as well. So yeah, that's my personal theory. But again, you have to take everything that anybody says about this election with a grain of salt because including me, because we don't have the numbers yet. Like, we don't have the vote totals, and we don't know which demographics swung for which parties. And so, you know, there's going to be a lot of polling and focus grouping and digging into the statistics once all that data gets released. But this is just my shooting from the hip guess about things. I would say incumbency bias and an unprecedented, you know, impossible to imagine how massive it is propaganda campaign that propped up Republicans and depressed Democratic turnout. Big T says hateful rhetoric cost you the election. Hateful rhetoric like Democrats are the enemy within. Hateful rhetoric like immigrants are poisoning the blood of the nation, because that's the shit that Donald Trump was saying. Let's see here. The other Jen, what happens if Trump pulls support for Ukraine? We'll see if the European Union can fill in the gaps, but I'm not sure if Ukraine will be able to survive. I think it is possible that they just get completely annexed by Russia. Russia has taken a lot of damage to their economy, to their population, to their military complex in this war. Ukraine put up a fight that nobody saw coming, and the fact that we've been able to help them has, of course, helped that effort. And so I wonder, and I mean, the fact that they're importing soldiers from North Korea probably tells you everything you need to know about how well Russia is doing in this war. But yeah, who knows? Who knows if Russia still has enough gas left in the tank to continue annexing Ukraine? But without American support, I definitely worry for them. Let's see here. Damon, FYI, says, do you think Biden will appoint Obama to SCOTUS? And that would be rough because, first of all, they would need to allow there to be another seat, which, would require the Senate to agree to that. And, I believe Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin are still in the Senate, which means that, they don't, those are two very difficult votes to get for adding a seat to the Supreme Court. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're adding a Supreme Court seat in the last, 2 months until Trump takes over, Yo-Yo Binks says calling Trump Hitler was the hateful rhetoric. Well, what do you want us to do, Yo-Yo Binks, when he's literally acting like Hitler? Yo-Yo Binks, am I supposed to just not call somebody Hitler because it's divisive, even if he's acting exactly like fucking Hitler? What do you think I should be doing about that, Yo-Yo Binks? When he is telling people that he admires Hitler's generals and he really wishes that he could get generals like Hitler had, and when he's telling people like Hitler did some good things, he had some really good ideas, and when there is anecdotal evidence that he slept with a copy of Hitler's speeches next to his book, a book of Hitler's speeches next to his bed at night, what are we supposed to do about that shit? Let's see here. Brady says, "How dare we call someone out?" Yeah, exactly. How dare we tell people the things that Trump is saying? How dare we repeat those things to other people? Is it true that world leaders don't take Kamala seriously, or Obama came out of nowhere? Obama did come out of nowhere. He was a freshman senator, so he had very little government experience when he ran for president. But some people view that as a positive, and it is a reason why he was able to run as the change candidate in 2008. And people were very excited about that. Hillary Clinton came after him for that. He doesn't have the experience. McCain came after him for that. He doesn't have the experience. But it seemed like the American people wanted what Obama was selling, fresh, new, hope, change, all that stuff. And I think Obama was a great president. Don't get me wrong. Now, do other world leaders not take Kamala seriously? I don't buy that shit for a fucking second. That's just right-wing narrative. There's no world leader out there that is on record saying that. There's no world leader, Macron or fucking, what's his name? Shit, man. I forget who's prime minister of Germany now. It's not Merkel anymore, but Merkel and Macron and Putin were out there going like, I don't take Harris seriously as a presidential candidate. Yeah, no, that's all bullshit right wing narratives. Chica Chula, McCain was a decent Republican like Cheney. History is on their side. Well, let's not lump McCain in with Cheney. Come on, man. Chica Chula, come on. Let's not whitewash the Cheneys here, I appreciate that they endorsed Harris, but the Cheneys, yeah, I'm not doing that shit. That is, you're on your own, Chica. I've been with you on this, a lot of the things that you've said on this live, but no, ma'am. I'll go to bat for McCain, but the Cheneys, they're on their fucking own, man. Christian87, who's your favorite and least favorite politician? There are a lot of politicians that I like, but I before I tell people the politicians that I like to encourage people not to lionize their politicians, because every politician is human. They all make mistakes. Every person that you think is a great politician has something that you don't like about them, either in their past or in their campaign, or they're going to do something policy-wise that you don't like. All these progressives who were simping for AOC and Bernie, Some of them are calling them, like centrist corporate Democrats now because they've been disappointed by them, So I think that lionizing your politicians can only end that way, where you either go down the cult route of Daddy Trump can do no wrong, or you become completely disenchanted with politics in general. It's like, I can't believe AOC broke my heart when she signed on to the non-binding blah blah whatever fucking problem the leftists have with AOC and Bernie these days. But yeah, I like the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So AOC, Pramila Jayapal. I like the young members too. I like Maxwell Frost. I like Katie Porter. I really was gunning for her to be senator of California. Adam Schiff got it, and I like him fine. But I fucking love me some from Katie Porter. Warren, I was big into Warren in 2020. I was really hoping that she would run in 2016 also. Who else do I like? Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett is great. She's hysterical. I love her. I love her in hearings. I love her in interviews. Let's see here. Why do you think many people didn't listen to John Kelly or Mike Pence? That's a really interesting question, Volsi, because, I was listening to all the pollsters talk about like the narratives that are going to be the most beneficial to Democrats in this election. And the two things that every pollster was agreed on was that the fact that so many Republicans, including Republicans that worked for Trump, both in his administration and in his businesses, are all saying that he's bad and that they're voting for Democrats instead, that is a huge red flag to voters. And abortion. They're saying that people are extremely motivated by the Dobbs decision, by Roe being overturned. And so those are the two issues that you should hammer in order to motivate people to vote for Democrats, And so yeah, I don't know why people didn't hear that. I don't know. And it's possible that people did hear that, but that the numbers that we were able to get from defectors from the Republican Party and swing voters just did not make up for the fact that fewer Democrats turned out because of all of the anti-democratic propaganda narratives that I had talked about earlier on this live. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we're not going to know those numbers until, we're not going to know that for a fact until those numbers are released. But yeah, I don't know. I was on here all the time telling people that the race was 50-50, but just based on those two polling facts, in my heart, I thought Kamala was going to run away with it. But I was acting like she wasn't going to run away with it. I was doing my volunteer shifts, and I was donating my time and my money and my energy, and I was on these lives telling people to do the same, I wasn't on here going, don't worry, guys, race is over. But in my heart, in my secret heart where I was telling nobody, I was like, I think she's going to run away with it, because if we get Republicans and we get all the women from abortion, blah, blah, blah. But, who the fuck knows, man? Who the fuck knows? Let's see here. Jack Wolf, isn't the election over? Why can't we all just unite? I guess, Jack Wolf, the reason is that people are really worried about what Trump is going to do. He is saying that he's going to do a lot of things that are going to hurt people and are going to hurt the country. And we're worried that the fact that he has full control of the government, the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court, means that he's going to be able to do all the terrible things that he says that he wants to do. And so, yeah, that's the reason why we can't just unite, is because, more than half of this country is worried that they're going to have to flee, or that their friends or their family or their teachers or their coworkers are going to get deported, whether or not they are here illegally or not. We're worried that the army is going to be marching through American streets, fucking ripping people out of their homes and tearing families apart. We're worried that tariffs across the board are going to raise prices to the point where nobody's going to be able to fucking afford to live anymore. We're worried that the stock market is going to crash because we're going to be so separated from the global markets that our GDP is going to be non-existent. That's the reason why we can't unite. And we're worried, well, the first time that Trump got elected, hate crimes spiked. What do you think is going to happen this time? It's worrisome. It's very worrisome. That's why we're still talking about it. That's why we're not uniting. I'll tell you another reason why we're not uniting is because all these fucking Trumpers are calling me a fucking cuck and calling us all, oh, why don't you guys cry some more? Like, their whole platform is owning the libs. Like, they want to see us upset. And so they're constantly antagonizing us. And they're constantly, poking at us and telling us that we're shit, My producer's telling me I gotta wrap it up. All right. So yeah, I'm going to do my outro. I'll do one more question, and then I got to get out of here, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the gifts. I really appreciate you guys. I'm doing another live tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time. I may do one on Wednesday early, but then I'm going to be out for maybe a week because I'm having gum surgery, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. If you like my stuff, I would appreciate it if you shared my stuff. You know, I got a new video out now about a new propaganda narrative against Democrats that I think people should be aware of the fact that it's bullshit, nonsense, right-wing propaganda. So I'd appreciate if you guys went on my channel and checked that out and liked it and shared it. Yeah, and go to my website, jaredbergenson.com, if you ever want to reach out, or if you want to know when my live tour dates are, or you ever want to see my live schedule. Like, I'm pretty good about keeping that shit up to date. And yeah, just, you know, don't despair, don't give up, don't be cynical, don't concede. You know, authoritarian governments, they want you to give up before they force you to give up. So do not obey before they force you to obey. And if you want to get involved, there are places that you can do that. Check out AOC. She's been really good about putting that information out there. There's another group called Vote Save America that I think is a great organization doing the work. There's another great organization called Run for Something, which gets young progressives to run for office, and I support them as well. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to do things if you're worried about the future of this country, which I think I think we should be. You know, and thanks again for watching. Any support that you guys can give, whether it's the free kind like likes and shares, or if it's the money kind like gifts or subscribing to my Patreon or going to my Spring store, like all of that stuff helps out a ton, and it makes it able for me to continue doing these. And I do love doing these, so I appreciate the support. All right, final question. M, could I know where your sources are on the economy? Answers if you remember. Love to have them. So I get my information from a lot of different places, but if you want economy specifically, here's what I would do. There's a journalist named Chris Hayes. He works for MSNBC. He has a podcast called Why Is This Happening? Go to that podcast and look for episodes about the economy, and more specifically about the Biden versus the Trump economy. When it was still Biden in the race, he did a series where he just compared the records of both administrations. And so I'm 99% sure that there is an episode that is literally just him talking to an economic expert about the Biden economy versus the Trump economy. So that is a good place to look for that. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Have a great week. I will see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Take care, everybody. Later. Bye-bye. 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 Bye.